All right, so it's Tisha B'Av today. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn a little bit from the Gemara and Masechet Gitin, which is one of the sections of the Talmud that one is permitted to learn. Tisha B'Av is a very, very sad day in the Jewish calendar. It is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. It doesn't have to be a sad day. It's only because we haven't fixed the mistakes of our forefathers ourselves by making those mistakes ourselves. And that's why Tisha B'Av is a day of mourning. So because learning Torah makes a person happy, Pikudei Hashem mesameh lev, the words, the things of the statutes of the Torah make a person's heart happy. So therefore, we're not allowed to study things of Torah that make a person happy. So we're relegated to studying pieces of the Torah that are consistent with the day. So one of them is this Gemara Masechet Gitin that will start shortly. Another thing a person's allowed to study today is Megillat Echa. You're allowed to read Midrash Echa. You're allowed to study the book of Iyov. And you're also allowed to read halachot of Avelut and Musar. So Mesilat Yesharim, things like that teach people how to behave. These are things that are permitted to study on Tisha B'Av. And it's no coincidence, I think that the Chachamim put this story in Masechet Gitin. Masechet Gitin is in Seder Nashim. There are 6 Sidarim of the Mishnah, 6 orders of the Talmud. One of them is Nashim. Nashim, of course, is women. And Seder Nashim deals with things like marriage and divorce and contracts, ketubot to ketubah, sotah, the laws of the sotah. So one of the Masechtot is Masechet Gitin, which talks about divorce. And it's much more complicated in Jewish law to get a divorce than it is to get a marriage. Any rabbi can marry 2 Jews. In fact, you don't even need a rabbi technically. You just need 2 witnesses that are kosher witnesses to see the man giving the woman something of value, and she's mikudeshet, and she's married. Getting a divorce, however, is a whole different story. Even though there are many rabbis, most rabbis are not involved in divorce. They usually will refer this to people who have expertise because the laws are very, very intricate. And the danger is if a woman is married and she doesn't have a proper divorce and she gets married to another man, and the first divorce that she had is improper, then she's technically still married to the first man, and children could be called mamzerim in that situation. So divorce is a very, very serious thing. And this story that we're going to read about, which talks about the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, we're going to see that it's in Masechet Gitin. And why is it in Masechet Gitin? Because if you want to say Tisha B'Av is a little bit of a divorce of the Jewish people from God. Because we misbehaved, we didn't properly take care of that relationship. So God separated himself from us to a certain degree. Baruch Hashem, Hashem never separated himself completely from us. It's a distance, but it's not insurmountable. And we can get back. Since Machazir Girushato, right? As long as we're not involving ourselves with Avodah Zarah, other gods, there's a halakha that says that a man who divorces his wife, he has a mitzvah to remarry her. Up until when? Up until she marries another man. Once she marries another man, then he can't take her back. So if you continue on the analogy, if Hashem almost kaviyachol gave the Jewish people a divorce, as long as the Jewish people don't involve themselves with another god, another religion, then we can always return. Of course, it's not exactly a great analogy because even if a Jew involves himself with another religion, chas v'shalom, he becomes a Christian, he becomes a Muslim, he can always come back. Yisrael afapi shehata Yisrael hu. A Jew is a Jew. You can never give up your Judaism. So if you look in the Masechet Gitin, we're on page 55b, Daf Nun Hey Amud Bet. And we're going to go down to the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the bottom, where the 2 dots are. It says there, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ma'ir tichtiv. What does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This pasuk is from, if I'm not mistaken, this pasuk is from Mishlei, chapter 28. Ashrei Adam mefahed tamid umakshe lipo yipol bera'ah. Fortunate, lucky, happy is the man that fears, right? Mefahed tamid, and someone who's makshe libo, someone who is hardened of heart, he's going to come to harm, difficulty. What does it mean, fear all the time? A person is very, very cautious. The Ramchal talks about this in Misilat Yesharim. A person who's cautious about their deeds, a person who before they do anything, they weigh their deed. We all have all different opportunities to do good things and do bad things. A person should always, before they do something, weigh the sachar of the avera versus the hefsed of the avera. Just like a person's going to go into a business deal. A person's going to go into a business deal, he has an opportunity to make money. But before you do that, you have to evaluate risk. Sometimes if the risk is very, very high, it's not worth it because you can end up losing money. So the same thing regarding mitzvot. The person or averot, the person should weigh their deeds. The person should always be afraid that maybe they're going to do something that is wrong. And that's what the pasuk is saying. And if a person is not afraid that what they're going to do is something wrong, a person is not analyzing the totzaot of their actions, as it says in Pirkei Avot, Ezu hachacham haroeh tanolad. Who is the one who is wise? Someone who sees what's going to happen. Which means you have to weigh the consequences of your actions. If a person doesn't do that, then chas v'shalom can come to evil. And with this context, now the Gemara is going to talk specifically about why the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. It's going to focus here on the second Bet HaMikdash, which in some ways is more relevant to us. And the reason for that is the sins of the first temple, adultery, okay, well, unfortunately, that's still with us. But idol worship is really not, most Jewish people do not worship Avodah Zarah. It's not really something that's prevalent. Murder, you maybe have a couple here and there, bandits. But for the most part, Jewish people are not murderers. So the destruction of the first temple is less, first of all, it's also further away. But the second temple, this is more similar to what we are today, where we have people who study Torah, Baruch Hashem, but you have regular people that don't study so much. And then you have you have the elite. In the time of the second Bet HaMikdash, the elite were the Kohanim, the Ashirim, and most of the Kohanim were Ashirim. And they were Karov LaMalchut. They were close to the Roman government. And sometimes in order to advance themselves from a financial point of view, they made friends with the Romans in ways that were contrary to Jewish interests. And that was the setting of the Second Temple period. So the Gemara says, Akamsa ubar Kamsa haruv Yerushalayim. As a result of the incident between Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Jerusalem was destroyed. Atarnegola v'tarnegolta charuv tur malka. And a result of an incident between a rooster and a hen, Har HaMelech, which was a certain type of populated area in Yehuda, was destroyed. Ashaka derispak haruv betar. And because of the side of a carriage, betar was destroyed. Now, this is a remez. Of course, it's going to go into detail about all three of these things. We're probably only going to have time, Be'ezrat Hashem, just to finish the first one, which is why Yerushalayim was destroyed. Now, if we look at this situation, a Kamsa or Bar Kamsa. What is Kamsa? It's his name. It's a person's name. What is Bar Kamsa? So it's interesting. Bar Kamsa is son of Kamsa. Some people learn out that these were not relatives of each other. One, his name was Kamsa, and the other one was Bar Kamsa. Others learn out, no, this is a father and son. Okay? Which is going to make it even more significant, as we'll see why. Now, we have to understand, the Gemara says, because of the incident of Kamsa, Bar Kamsa. We're going to find out that this whole story has nothing to do with Kamsa. It only has to do with Bar Kamsa. So the Gemara is going to say it like this. A Kamsa Bar Kamsa charu Yerushalayim. Because of the incident of Kamsa Bar Kamsa, Jerusalem was destroyed. Dehu Gavra. There was a certain man. And when we say Gavra, what do we mean Gavra? Gavra Rabbah. Yes, that's the first thing. A rich man, a man who had a lot of connections, political connections, and he was wealthy. Derahme Kamsa, that he had a very good, positive, loving relationship with a person whose name was Kamsa, Ubal Devave de Bar Kamsa, and he hated Bar Kamsa. So you have a rich man, and he has a wonderful relationship with this guy whose name is Kamsa, and he hates Bar Kamsa. Avad Seudata. He made a banquet. Doesn't say what type of banquet it was. We could even say it was a banquet that was maybe a seam of Masechet of Gemara, because we're going to see very shortly that the Chachamim came to this banquet. So if it was just a banquet with mixed dancing and all that kind of stuff, I'm not sure the Chachamim would have been there. But the fact that the Chachamim were there means that more likely it was some type of Seudat Mitzvah. Question?
No, she's reading what you're saying on her telephone.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's why I sent it to you, so you can look at it too. Okay? Now, let's think about this for 1 second. Let's just say, for argument's sake, they were father and son. Yes, so the father is Kamsa. The son is Bar Kamsa. The father has a good relationship with the Gavra, yes?
The Gavra hates his son.
And the Gavra hates his son? It's not what man who had a good relationship with a non-relative wouldn't say, well, why do you hate my son? How can one have a relationship with someone that hates the son to the level that we're going to see in the Talmud over here? So this is all background questions. There's no answers to these questions, just to show you the level of the relationships between the Jewish people in Yerushalayim. Amar le Sham'eh. He said to his attendant. Now it's very interesting. What is Sham'eh? Attendant. What word is inside? Lishmoa. Let's see how well this attendant listened. Zil aitili Kamsa. Please go and invite Kamsa to come to my banquet, my seudah. Obviously, he did not invite Bar Kamsa. Why would he invite him? He doesn't like him. You don't invite people to your house you don't like. Azal aite le Bar Kamsa. But this servant didn't listen so good. And what did he do? Instead of going to invite Kamsa, he went and he invited Bar Kamsa. Now, why Sham'eh? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Yes? What I spoke about on Thursday in my shiur, I said that when Bnei Yisrael at Har Sinai said Na'aseh v'nishma, yes, that was accepting of the Torah. They blew it with the Na'aseh part. When they made Heta Egel, when they did the Egel, they blew it with the Na'aseh part. So Hashem said to them, you know what? Okay, you blew it with the Na'aseh part. Stick to the Nishma part. And when you listen enough, what's going to happen? Then you're going to do. So we can survive if we're doing the Nishma. And then later, as time goes on, we'll get close to the Na'aseh. But we see here, this person who was the servant of the Gavra didn't listen too good. And we also see from here, how well do we listen when we read the Torah every Shabbat, when we learn Torah, how well do we listen to what's being said and employ what we're learning into our lives, into our personal lives? Okay? Ata ashkehe dehava yativ. Now, here's an amazing thing. The fact that the servant made a mistake, it's a little crazy, but I guess maybe he wasn't aware of how much his host didn't like Bar Kamsa. Now you're Bar Kamsa. You get an invitation to come to a party. What, Bar Kamsa doesn't know that the Gavra hates him? And if you know in the neighborhood there's two people that have the same name, close to the same name, and you know that there's a person that you don't get along with, and you get an invitation to that party, you say to yourself, this has to be a mistake. Maybe you go to the other person and say, listen, I got this invitation. It can't be for me. We haven't spoken to each other in 15 years. This has got to be for you. Oh, thank you, thank you. But what did we see? Bar Kamsa comes to the party. Now,
Maybe he thought that it's time to do shula.
that would be nice, except as we go through the story, let's look at the personality of Bar Kamsa and see if you still hold that way. Okay? Amar le. Who's this? The Gavra. He comes into the party, makes his dramatic entrance, and what does he see? He sees Bar Kamsa sitting there. Mikadi means to consider. Hahu Gavra Baal Devava Hahu Gavrahu. Look how this guy is talking. He's talking in third person. This man, look here, this man, that man, you, is the enemy of me. Who talks like that? Who talks like that? V'ha'ashir ya'aneh azot. Someone who has ashir, someone who has a lot of money, there comes with that a lot of agava, a lot of arrogance, which we see contained within here. This is the sin that these two people had. It was the ga'ava. Nowhere do we see Bar Kamsa what his status is, although we can learn from the story that Bar Kamsa was not a poor man. Mai ba'it hacha. What do you want here? Which means, what are you doing here? And who is he doing this? Usually, let's just say for argument's sake that somebody came to your party and you don't like that person and you feel it was a mistake. You have a couple of choices. One thing you can do is just keep your mouth shut. All right, so let him stay. Who's he going to talk to? All right, let him stay. No big deal. And if it's a simhat mitzvah, so he's going to participate in the mitzvah. No big deal. If you really, really don't want him to be there, what do? You send someone. He sent his servant to go do the invitation. You send your servant over to Bar Kamsa. You know something? I think you might have made a mistake. You're not invited to the party here. That's not what he did. He almost made an announcement in front of everybody. And he's speaking in this arrogant way. Kum puk. Get up and get out. Now, he's pogea b'kavod. Bar Kamsa made a mistake. The mistake was made by the servant, but Bar Kamsa came based on his invitation. So what does Bar Kamsa say? Amar le, he's not going to let this go without doing a little back. Ho'il ve'atai shavkan, since I have come, big shot. Big shot. You have come. Pick yourself up and walk out. Since I have made the effort to come, basically, V'havina lach deme ma de'achilna ushtina. I will give you the value of whatever I have eaten or drunk. Which means you shouldn't feel bad that you're going to be losing money here. Whatever I eat, I'm going to pay for. Now, was that a fighting word or was that a reconciliation word?
Fighting.
That's a fighting word. That is not reconciliation.
It's like calling it cheap.
Because you're exactly, in one way you're calling him cheap, another way you're saying, listen, I'm going to stay, I'll just pay for what I eat. Don't worry about it. It's not going to cost you any money.
What's mean reconciliation? What's in Hebrew? This word, what you said before?
What word did I say?
Reconciliation.
Reconciliation. To fix things. Latzot shalom.
How do you pronounce it?
Reconciliation. Amar le. Now, of course, the Gavra, what does he say back? Lo. No. I don't want you to stay. Amar le. Bar Kamsa said to him, Yehivna lach deme palga de sudatach. Okay, I will pay for half the seudah. Amar le, lo, no. Amar le, what does Bar Kamsa now say? Yehivna lach deme kula seudatech. I will pay for the whole seudah. For everybody.
All the guests.
Now, of course, with each one of these is a further of an insult to the Gavra. Amar le lo, nakte biyadeh ve'ukmeh ve'apkeh, The Gavra himself, he didn't get his security guards. The Gavra himself grabbed him by his hand, stood him up, and threw him out of the house. Amar. Now look at what Bar Kamsa analyzes. And this gives you a lot of information. Ho'ir v'havu yatvera banan. What is he mad about? He's mad about that he's humiliated, yes? But who specifically is he directing his anger to? Who should he be directing his anger to?
The guy.
Oh, either the servant or the master, the Gavra. But that's not who he directs his anger to. Ho'il v'havu yatvera banan v'la ma'ube. The rabbis were there.
He's right.
The rabbis of Jerusalem were there.
What?
It was a seudat mitzvah. And while this whole thing was going on, the rabbanim were...
Quiet.
Now, why would they have been quiet?
I was more rich than the other one. Literally the Jewish.
So we see that, again, everything starts with the Chachamim. Now, of course, they're on a much higher level than anybody else. But any slight fall of the Chachamim causes a much greater fall amongst the non-Chachamim. Because the way it works is people who learn Torah, people who are Chachamim, they have to live to a much, much higher standard than the people who are not learning Torah. And if they're truly absorbing the Torah inside, that should be part and parcel of what they do. They should be living up to a higher standard. Now, hochacha is not an easy mitzvah. Rebuke is not an easy mitzvah. But that's the job of a Jew to another Jew. How could they not have said anything? Why would they not have said anything? Because why? One of the reasons might be that this Gavra was very, very wealthy. Bar Kamsa also very, very wealthy. And they didn't want to get involved.
They want to get money from both sides.
Because maybe, they have to maintain good relations with both of them. If they stand up and support Bar Kamsa, the Gavra is going to be upset. If they stand up and support the Gavra, then the Bar Kamsa is going to be upset. Which means there's no way for them to win. But what's the problem?
You should make shalom, not support nobody.
There's only one being they have to be concerned about. That's God. Regardless of whether Kamsa and Bar Kamsa are upset, or whether Gavra or Bar Kamsa are upset, how did it start off? Ashrei Adam mefahed tamid. A person has to weigh action. A person also has to weigh inaction. And we'll see this exact thing of the Chachamim is repeated later on in a way that's even more egregious, which is the direct result of the destruction of the temple. So what happened? Now, this Bar Kamsa is not a good guy, as we're going to see right now. So because the rabbis did this, what does he do? Shema mina kanihu lehu. It is evident, basically, since the rabbis didn't say anything, that they agree with how he was treated. Because we have a statement in the Gemara, shtika kehodaya dameh. When there is something bad going on, and you don't stand up and say something, what does it mean? You agree with it. Ezil echo behu kurza be malka. So Bar Kamsa says he has connections in Rome. So what is he going to do? He's going to slander the Jewish people. Yes. Yes. But remember, these guys, they have a lot of money. Clearly, Bar Kamsa is a wealthy man. If he's willing to give someone who he hates the price of the entire Seudah, clearly he's wealthy. Obviously, the Gavra is wealthy. They're politically connected. What's more important to them? Their material or their connection to the Jewish people? Right. And that is a sin, unfortunately, sometimes.
Always, but generally.
That's a sin we have sometimes even nowadays, that we're more connected to our cars and our houses and our bank accounts and our job than we are in what is Hashem looking from us. Ashrei Adam mefahed tamid, meaning what? Everything a person does in business, is this allowed or is this not allowed? Is this business transaction permitted or is not permitted? Should I be doing business today? It's Erev Yom Kippur. Should I be doing a business deal today? Even I can make $1,000. Should I be doing the business deal? If we're not going to see Siman Bracha, then why are we doing that? This is how the Yetzer Hara comes in. Yetzer Hara comes in and says, no, I don't want you to appreciate the holiness of the day. And it's not, Yetzer Hara is not going to waste time if a person is Shomer Shabbat, not going to waste time with someone and say, I'll give him a business deal in Shabbat. He's going to give him a business deal 2 hours before Shabbat. So now what happens? Ooh, now we're going to push it to the wire. This is where the Yetzer Hara comes in. Not exactly the same levels, but we see the focus on materialism. And even though this is it doesn't say it's a Seudat mitzvah, we can assume, I would hope it's a Seudat mitzvah, otherwise what the rabbis were doing there. But even so, you're having a Seudat mitzvah, and this is what you do, you publicly humiliate somebody in front of everyone in Jerusalem. Azal Amar Le Kesar. It says that he went and spoke to the Kesar. Now, it's a discussion. It's hard to imagine that this Jew would have been able to get an appointment with Caesar in Rome. So he basically may have made an appointment with the designee of Caesar in the in the Judean territories, which would have been whoever the Roman procurator was at that time. Mardu bach Yehudaeh. The Jewish people are rebelling against you. Amar le, mi emar, says who? Which means, you telling me the Jewish people are rebelling? Prove it. Amar le. Now remember, let's talk about the Second Temple period. You have the Chachamim, and you have the Kohanim. The Kohanim were not rebelling against the Romans. Why not? No, because Rome controlled the temple to some extent. Who became a Kohen? Only someone who was friendly to Rome. So if you wanted to have any type of honor or kibud or be able to do anything in the temple as a Kohen, you were friends with Rome. Who were the problem in the time of the Chanukah? The Chashmonaim were Kohanim, yes? But in Yerushalayim, the Kohanim were the ones who were the Tzedukim. Those were the ones who were more fringe. They were the ones who were more Hellenized, some of them. The Chashmonim was a unique family. But already, so we see the Kohanim were very much in with Rome. That's the Kohanim. The Chachamim were not in with Rome.
So Kohanim, they weren't real Kohanim?
They were real Kohanim. But if you wanted to be Kohen Gadol, you had to pay money to Rome to do that.
Why did Rome control the temple though?
Because Rome is in charge of everything now. They're underneath Roman rule already for 100 years. You know the history. This is happening around the year 67. 67 of the Common Era. Rome is already in charge since Julius Caesar. So that would be 50 BCE. So that you're talking about 100 years of Roman rule already by now. Now, what about the rabbis? What's the rabbis' relationship with Rome? The rabbis are not in Rome's pocket. But the rabbis also recognize that the spirituality of the nation is very, very low. And the Romans were very, very powerful. They understood that a conflict with Rome would result in the destruction of the temple. So they were very much into appeasing Rome, not doing anything against the Torah.
Yeah.
But Rome, what was Rome interested in? Rome wanted you to be, Rome had a lot of respect for the Jewish religion. It was a legal religion in the Roman Empire. Unlike other religions, Christianity was an illegal religion in the Roman Empire. Judaism was legal. Why was Judaism legal? Because we had already accepted the fact that we were not going to have a king. Even though we had kings in the time of the Second Temple, those kings were Chashmonaim. Chashmonaim are Kohanim. Kohanim are not allowed to be kings, which is why all the Chashmonaim were destroyed. So we really didn't have someone sitting from Bet David. So as far as the Chachamim were concerned, whoever called himself a king was not a king. The Christians, however, wanted Jesus to be the king, or wanted the idea there should be someone from sitting on the throne of David. That's a rebellion against Rome. So the Chachamim were okay with working with whoever the king was, even though he was appointed by Rome. They were okay with working with him. So that's the political environment that we have in the time of the Second Temple over here. The rabbis are appeasing the Romans, not violating the halakha, but they don't want to cause trouble because the Romans are allowing them to have the temple. The Romans are allowing them to teach Torah. There's no prohibitions on being a Jew. And the rabbis recognize that they're not in an ideal state to have the Mashiach at this point. If the Mashiach comes, they're ready. But to force that issue right now, that would be death because that would be a rebellion against Rome. And Rome would come in and crush them. Rome no one beat Rome. So what happens? The Caesar says who they're rebelling, which means the Caesar doesn't believe that because he knows the Kohanim are not rebelling. He knows the rabbis are not rebelling. So where's the rebellion? So what does he do? He gives them some advice. Shada lehu kurbana. Send them an animal for a sacrifice. Why? Because in the temple, we're allowed to bring sacrifices of Gentiles. Goyim were permitted to bring korban to the Bet HaMikdash. There's two kinds of korbanot. One is olah and one is shlamim. Olah, the whole thing burns up. Shlamim, you put some of it on the mizbeach, and the other parts the kohanim eat, and the other parts the people bring the korban get to eat. Goyim can only bring olah. They can't bring shlamim. They're not allowed to eat from the korban. The kohen don't eat from the korban. The whole thing gets burnt up. So what does Rabbar Kamsa suggest? Send the korban, send the sacrifice, and see if the Jewish people will bring it, will sacrifice it. Chazit imikarvin le. You should watch and see if they accept the sacrifice from you. Azal shadar biadeh egla tilta. So the Romans were not, they were experts in sacrifices. They knew the rules. And the rules for sacrifice was pretty straightforward for all the nations. You give animals that are perfect. You give the best animal for a sacrifice. You don't give garbage. So he gave them a fine calf, egla tilta, which is basically a 3-year-old calf, which is the most ideal type of sacrifice to give in the Bet HaMikdash, at least as far as the Gentiles are concerned. Bahadeh kate, on the way to Jerusalem, what did he do? Shada be muma beniv sifatayim. He put a blemish, he put a mum in the lip, upper lip of the animal. What's the problem with that? But it's even more complicated than that. And this is deep. So as far as the Gentiles are concerned, a blemish in the lip does not invalidate the sacrifice. As far as the Jewish law is concerned, a blemish in the lip invalidates the sacrifice. What's the deeper message here? Why the lip? Lashon hara. Lashon hara is an avon that is only for the Jewish people. In American law, there is no sin called Lashon Hara. Slander is against the law. Yes? If you say someone did something and they didn't do it, they can sue you for slander and you have to pay. So to me, motzi sheker, this is against the law. What's a defense for slander? Let's say someone says, I slandered them. How do I defend myself? There's two ways to defend slander. One way is to say, I didn't slander them. Another way is to say, I did, but it's not slander. It's true. And let me prove it. And if you can show that what you said is true, that's not slander. Because slander has to be a sheker. So as far as in Gentile law is concerned, the truth you're allowed to say. Lashon hara is the truth, is not sheker. And that's why the lip represents something that for the Gentiles, a blemish in the lip is permitted. But for the Jews, a blemish in the lip is asur. Just to show you how Bar Kamsa was not a fool. And some say he did something with his eye. He did something to the animal in its eye rather than in its lips. Why the eye? What are the eyes of the congregation? The rabbis are the eyes of the congregation. And what is he saying here? The rabbis sat and did nothing. So their eye is blemished. The eye of the Jewish people is blemished, chas v'shalom, because the rabbis didn't do anything. And that's why he put the blemish in the eye. Once again, this type of blemish he put in the eye would not be a blemish for the Gentiles, but would be a blemish for the Jewish people. Duchta dilidan hava muma. Either way, he ensured that the blemish was in a place where for the Jewish people it was considered to be prohibiting to offer this on the temple. Ulditu lav mumahu, and according to the goyim, it is not considered to be a blemish. So now what happens? Bar Kamsa comes to the temple with this animal, and this animal has a blemish that is a blemish that precludes this being sacrificed on the temple. And they know that Bar Kamsa came from the Kesar with this animal, and they know exactly what Bar Kamsa is up to. Savur Rabbanan Likrove. The rabbis wanted to make the sacrifice anyway. Why?
Not to make it obvious.
Pikuach nefesh.
Yeah, they don't want to find the
If they don't sacrifice the animal, what's going to happen? The Romans are going to interpret that, in fact, the Jewish people are rebelling against Rome, and they're going to come with their legions, and they're going to kill lots of Jews. So for the purposes of saving Jewish life, you would be allowed to bring the sacrifice, even with the mum. Yes? This is what the rabbis said. But there was one rabbi who disagreed. Amar lehu Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas. His name was Rabbi, and it's interesting, they mention his name. The other ones, they say Rabbanan, the rabbis. This guy, they mention his name. Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, what did he say? Yomru ba'ale mumin krevin legabe hamizbeach. People are going to see that you bring this animal as a sacrifice in the temple, and they're going to think, what? That from now on it's permitted to bring blemished animals. So the rabbis, what happened? They said, that makes sense. Makes sense, right? Makes sense in this kind of way. Savul miktele. So they have another option. They could kill Bar Kamsa, and then the Romans would never know. Why are they allowed to kill him?
to prevent it.
He's a Moser.
Nachon.
A Jew who is Moser, other Jews, certainly for Harigah, for slaughter or for danger. Kol hahorgo harezeh meshubach. That's the halakha. Whoever kills him, yashakoach, you did a good job. And they have a right to kill him because he's a Moser. So he won't be able to tell Caesar that they didn't bring this sacrifice. Amar lehu Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis. What did he say? Yomru metil mum bakadashim yehareg. People are going to say, what? That anyone who puts a mum in an animal and brings it to the temple is worthy of death. Now, remember this whole thing was started, Rabbi Yochanan said, Ashrei Adam mefahed tamid, yes? So here, what the Chachamim are doing here is not good. Because they should have, to think about killing Bar Kamsa as an option, you're killing a Jew. You have a way not to kill a Jew. You can just sacrifice the animal, and then tell the people later on that this is a one-time event. It's called Hora'at Sha'ah. It's a one-time event. Instead, when the rabbi, Rav Zichaya ben Rav Kulis, came and said what he said, then the next thing they said is to kill Bar Kamsa, which means, where are they weighing their decision-making? And then, Rabbi Zichaya ben Rav Kulis, what, he doesn't understand the implications? This is what we call false piety. Chasid shoteh. And what does the Gemara say? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, which is the one who said, An vatanuto shel Rabbi Zechariah ben Rav Kulis. This tolerance of this rabbi, hechriva et betenu, caused the destruction of the temple, v'sarefat hechalenu, and burned down our sanctuary, v'higlitanu me'artzenu, and sent us out of our land. So even though the beginning of the story that says Akamsa bar Kamsa, because of the incident of Kamsa bar Kamsa, Rabbi Yochanan says, whose fault is it? This rabbi. And who was this rabbi? Some say he was the head of the Sanhedrin. He was one of the head rabbis. Because why are all the what is the halakha? Halakha, when you have one rabbi versus multiple rabbis, what do? Ahare rabim lehatot. You follow the majority. Why are they following a minority opinion here? So this is what we call also, maybe not even just false humility. That the anava of this man, he didn't want to cause any type of thing, caused there to be destruction of the temple. Now, from here on, we go down. Any questions so far? Shadar alavayhu leniron kesar. Basically, Nero, who was the Caesar in Rome, basically understood now what? That the Jewish people are rebelling, because the procurator sent a message to Caesar that the Jewish people are rebelling. And the Romans, the one thing they had no tolerance for is mored b'malchut. That's where they can create a crucifixion. That's the punishment of the Romans for someone who is mored b'malchut. They would tolerate lots of things, but this, they didn't tolerate, because they had a big empire they had to control, and they controlled it with cruelty that was unimagined in the ancient world. Kikate, when Nero came to approach Yerushalayim, Shada gira lemizrach atanafa b'Yerushalayim. He shot an arrow to the east, and what happened? The arrow went to Jerusalem. Lema'arav atanafa b'Yerushalayim. He shot an arrow to the west, and then it turned to Jerusalem. Le'abaru chot hashamayim atanafa b'Yerushalayim. He shot an arrow to all four directions, and what happened? Each time the arrow changed directions and went towards Jerusalem. So, what does it show you? Even though Nero was going to suppress the rebellion, he wanted to test the water. Why do you want to test the water?
No mistake.
I would say the Romans may have had a collective memory 150 years ago what happened with the Hashmonaim. The Jewish people were forced to be reckoned with, especially when they had God on their side. Nero doesn't know if their God is on their side. I mean, they were polytheists. Nero was an idol worshiper. So he doesn't know, is the Jewish God with them or not? So now it's going to be a question, because why did they have respect for Jews? Because they had respect for the relationship that they had with their God. And they knew fully well what happened to Egypt. Finished. What happened to Assyria when they came to attack Jerusalem? They all died. This is all they knew about this. These people were studying history. So they said, and they saw the Hashmonaim, they said, you know what, I need to make sure. And then when he shot the arrows, what does that mean? That clearly God is supporting him in his endeavor to suppress the rebellion. Even with that, what does he do? Amar lelinuka, he went to a young boy, a young child, old enough to be learning Tanakh. Because between the ages of 5 and 10, boys learn Tanakh. Pisokli pisukich. Tell me what you learned today. What is this? This is a method of Ruach HaKodesh. The child is going to say what he learned that day. Nero is going to hear what he learned and said, based on that, I know whether I'm going in the right direction or not. So what? How? Let's see the pasuk. Amar le v'natati et nikmati be'edom b'yad ami Yisrael. The pasuk, what was the pasuk the child learned? I will take my revenge on Edom through the agency of the Jewish people. Nero is from Edom. The pasuk the child said was, the Jewish people are going to take their vengeance on you. This is a problem. So therefore he said, I'm not gonna, what, I want to be the one to get punished by their God? He didn't learn, he learned from Paro. He said, I don't want to be punished by their God. Amar. Kucha brichu ba'ile haruve bete. Clearly God wants to destroy the temple, because when he sent the arrows, they went all to the direction of the temple. And the person who's going to do the destruction, God wants to wipe his hands clean and kill him. I don't want to be that. Let someone else do it. Why am I going to be the one? If God wants the temple to be destroyed, it's not going to be me. Arak ve'azal ve'igayer. He left, and the Gemara says he became a Jew. Nero. V'nafak minei Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir, Baal Hanes, was a descendant of Neron Kesar. Now, what does the Roman history say that happened to Nero? What do they say about Nero? Anybody know? It said Rome burned, and he played the fiddle. Which means, according to secular sources, he went crazy. Now, if you were writing Roman history and you had a Roman emperor that went and converted to Judaism, I'm not sure you'd write that. What would you write? He went crazy. What do you mean? He's becoming a Jew? What is this? He's becoming a Jew. So this is how secular history records Rome, Nero. But in fact, he went and became a Jew. This is what the Gemara says. He became Jewish. In fact, just as a side note, the gematria of Neron Kesar is 666. And that, for the Christians, is a number that's the signal of the beast, of the devil. Why? Because while Neron was Kesar, he persecuted the Christians because they were rebellious against Rome, and Judaism was an accepted religion, but Christianity was not. Okay, but that's not what the Gemara says. Shadre ilavayu l'Aspanianos Kesar. Caesar basically sent a different. So what happened was, Vespasian was sent to be, he was the general. He was sent the one. So Nero's not going to do it. So Vespasian, who was not the Caesar yet, basically was sent to do and to pull down the rebellion. Vespasian, what did he do? He's not going to attack them right away. That's a mistake. He surrounds Jerusalem for 3 years. Jerusalem is a city. It's got walls. If you surround it, what happens? Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. They run out of food, and they starve to death. And then they give up. And no Roman has to lose their life because they'll give up after a while. Havu be hanhu tlata atire. In Jerusalem, there were 3 rich men, contrasting to the first rich man, which is Bar Kamsa and the Gavra. Now we have 3 rich men that are unlike these Rishaim. Nakdimon ben Gurion, uben Kalba Savua, uben Tzitzit HaKeset. These were 3 great Ashirim in Jerusalem.
What the name of the third one?
Ben Tzitzit HaKeset.
Ben Tzitzit?
Yes, we'll see. He's going to explain the names. These were not their real names. These were nicknames that they got. Nakdimon ben Gurion. Why was he called Ben Gurion? By the way, got his name from Nakdimon ben Gurion.
Really?
Yes, his name was not Gurion. He was from Europe, wasn't he? Ben Gurion. What's his name? His father's name was Gurion. Who was named Gurion in Europe? He took this guy. Nakdimon Ben Gurion. Shenakda lo chama ba'avuro. I'm going to say, it says that once that the sun basically pierced the clouds on his behalf. There was a loan that Nakdimon that he took out, and he promised that he would pay the loan back by a certain time. And he was not able to pay the loan in a certain time. And just to make a long story short, this loan was on behalf of the entire Jewish nation. He took money as a loan in order to support the Jewish people in a difficult situation. And when it came time, the sun set, and the loan wasn't paid, now he would basically have to give up all of his wealth. And then he prayed that the sun should shine forth, and the sun shined forth through the clouds. Basically means it wasn't night yet, it was day, but it was really night, and that means he was able to pay back the loan on time. The Gemara talks about this someplace else. It's not germane to what we're talking about here. Ben Kalba Savua. Why was his name Kalba Savua? Shekol nichnas lebeto keshu ra'ev kakelev yotzeh keshu saveya. Anyone who would come into his house, even if he was hungry like a dog, and dog's appetite is never satiated. A dog can eat and eat and eat and eat until they vomit. Yes? This is her father-in-law, yes. This is his father-in-law, his daughter married Rabbi Akiva. Yes, separate story, correct. And what about Ben Tzitzit HaKeset? What about this guy? Shaitat tzitzaton nigreret al gabek satot. Because wherever he walked, his tzitzit would drag behind him, because he would put everywhere he would walk, he was so wealthy, he didn't want the tzitzit to be on the ground, so there were cushions there so the tzitzit should not be on the ground. Ika da'amre, some say, Shaita kisto mutelet ben gedolei Romi. Some say differently, that his kiseh was amongst the Romans, which means he was friends with the Romans, he was very in good with the Romans, but he was also very wealthy and supportive of the Jewish people. Now let's continue on what happened with the temple. Chadam alahu, one of these three rich men, now they have a problem. The Romans are surrounding Yerushalayim. Ana zayna lehu b'chiti v'sareh. One of them said, I will sustain the people with wheat and barley. The Hadam alahu, and the other one went to the rabbis and said, Did hamra de milcha o mishcha, I will give them wine, salt, and oil. The Hadamar, and one said to the rabbis, B'ditziveh, I will give them wood, which means all the three things that people need. They need food, they need wine and salt and oil, and they need wood for warmth. These three rich people were going to support all of Jerusalem.
Well, how long they can do it?
Longer than the Romans can continue the siege. V'shabechu rabbanan l'ditzeveh, and the rabbis gave special praise to the one who gave them wood. Why wood? Because the amount of wood that would be needed is so much greater, because you have to burn a lot more to get heat, whereas food, it's a smaller amount to sustain people. That they could have remained with the Roman siege for 21 years, and the Romans could not maintain a siege for 21 years. Remember, you have to have a whole garrison of soldiers to maintain the siege, because if you start taking soldiers away, then they can fight against those soldiers there and put them down. So they have to maintain a whole, whatever the group of soldiers there, and that distracts them from other places where they got to have soldiers. Derav chista kol akdile hava masal shameh. And to show you how important the thing of wood is, Rav Chista, it says in the Talmud, used to trust his attendant with all of the keys to everything in his house except for the wood. Why? De amar Rav Chista, achlava dechite ba'eh shitin achlave de tisiveh. A storehouse full of wheat into bread requires 60 storehouses of wood, which means the gift of wheat is 60 times less than the gift of wood, or the wood is 60 times more, just to show you how the one that gave the wood was a much greater gift. It says right here, Havu lehum lemizan esim echad shata. Basically, they had enough food and wine and wood to last for 21 years. Havu behu hanhu biryoneh. But when we talked about the Kohanim, we talked about the Chachamim. Well, we had another group, and they were called the Biryonim. These were basically what we would call bandits. But not bandits, they were zealots in a negative way. They wanted to fight the Romans. They wanted to bring the Mashiach. They felt that fighting the Romans was going to bring the Mashiach. So they were doing everything they could to rebel against Rome. So what happened? The rabbi said to them, Amru lehu Rabbanan, the rabbi said to the Bionim, Nepuk v'na'avid shlama behadayu. Let's go and make peace with the Romans. We can last for 21 years. They're out there for already a couple of years. Let's make peace with them. Why do we have to fight? This is all a misunderstanding. They're not rebelling against Rome. It's all of the thing of Bar Kamsa that caused this, with the Egel that they wouldn't sacrifice. We're not rebelling. Let's go talk to them. Lo shavkinu. The Biryonim would not allow the rabbis to go talk to the Romans because they controlled the city from a military point of view.
They wanted to be a fight?
They wanted to fight. These were probably younger guys. You know, rabbis are not fighters. They're rabbis. So the Biryonim were the ones who, in addition to guarding the city, wanted to fight the Romans, and they controlled the entrance and exits to the city. Amru lehu, they said to the rabbis, Nipuk v'navid krava behadayu. Let's go fight them. What do you mean make peace with them? Let's go fight them. Amru lehu Rabbanan, the rabbi said, Lo mistaya milta. It will not be successful. Why won't it be successful? Because the rabbis know that Hashem is not with them, that they don't have the spiritual level to fight against Edom. V'haya ka'asher tarid ufarata ulo me'al savarecha. What was the bracha to Edom? That when the Jewish people are spiritually low, you will beat them. You will be able to remove your yoke from them. So the rabbis know, since the Jewish people were spiritually low, there's no way that they will be victorious against the Romans. So what did the Biryonim do? Kamu kilanhu lehanhu ambire dechite v'sa'are. They burned down the storehouses of wheat and barley and wood. Ve'ava kafna, and now there's a famine. And these are Jews. Look what's going on here. That could have been prevented.
Yes, they would have lasted longer.
If the rabbis would have said something at the party, if they wouldn't have listened to Rabbi Zechariah ben Av Kulis and brought the animal anyway, if they wouldn't have listened to Rabbi Zechariah ben Av Kulis and killed Bar Kamsa, if Rabbi Zechariah ben Av Kulis would not have been so falsely humble in that kind of way, and if the Biryonim would have respected what the rabbi said. So now it talks about when the famine hit, what was the impact? Marta bat Baitus atirta d'Yerushalayim hava. There was a certain woman, her name was Marta, the daughter of Baitos, and she was the wealthiest woman in Jerusalem. Jewish, yes. Shadrata l'shlucha ve'amrali. Now there's a famine. What's the problem when there's a famine? Everybody's starving. Even the rich person is starving, but Baruch Hashem, the rich person has the ability to buy the food. So what happens? She sent her servant out, and she said to him, Zil aiti li simida, go and bring me a special type of flour, a fine flour, which means bring me something to eat that I'm accustomed to eating, which is fine flour. Ad azal is the ban. By the time he went and to the market, the bread, the fine flour was already gone. Ata amarla, he said back to told Marta, smida leka chivata ika. The smidar, this special flour is done, but maybe we can get you white bread. So what did she say? Amrale zil aiti li, go and get me the white bread. Now, of course, we have to ask ourselves a question. We now see two servants. One of them did a great job listening. The other one did a lousy job listening. What do I mean by that? The first one did a lousy job listening. What did he do? He didn't listen well, and he brought the wrong one. This one listened too well.
Bring the exact.
I mean, use your brain. She's starving. She wants something to eat. If she can't have fine flour, you have money. You're going to the market. You bring her the white bread. Well, it's going to be such a terrible thing. But he didn't do that. He listened too well. He didn't listen between what she was saying. As da'al is deban. By the time he went, the white bread was gone. Atav amale, he came back and said to her, Hivata leka gushkara ika. There's no more white bread, but there's bran, there's whole bread. Amrale zil aitili. Go and bring me the bran. I'm starving to death. All right, I'll take bran bread. Azal is deban. By the time he went, the bran was gone. Atav amale, he came back and told her, Gushkara leka kimcha desare ika. There's no more coarse bread, but we have bread made from barley, which is food for animals. Amrale zil aitile. Go and bring me. Azal is deban. By the time he went to get it, he was gone. The barley bread was gone. Hava shalifa mesava amra. Although she was not wearing her shoes, which was nobody walking outside without shoes on. Why is it we walk without shoes on Tisha B'Av? Because people who would go yahef, these were real destitute people, not to have shoes. And in the Ashkenazi world, that was something that was terrible, not to have shoes and things like that. That was like I know many of the Bukharim, when they come to the house, they take the shoes off and they walk in the house with, that would never happen. Ashkenazim, they don't taking your shoes off in front of someone is an insult. Yes. So here, she walks out, she basically what happened, she wasn't wearing shoes, but she was starving to death. I will go out and see whether she can. So her servant obviously failed, so she's going to go out and find for herself something to eat. This poor girl had never been outside in her life without someone taking care of her, and she forgot that she doesn't have her shoes on. And what's the problem? When you have animals walking in the middle of the street, what happens? The animals, they do their business in the middle of the street. So at the ends of the street is fine, but in the middle where the animals go is really, really bad. What happened? But she doesn't know this. Why doesn't she know this? Because she never went outside without shoes on. Etav le parta b'char'a u'meta. Some of the animal excrement got stuck on her foot, and because of that she became nauseated and died. Kare ala Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai called her on her. Basically, there's a pasuk. Haraka becha ve'anuga asher lo nista kaf ragla. The delicate and pampered woman amongst you who would never venture the sole of her feet upon the ground. This is a pasuk in Parashat Kitavo. So it's saying Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, when he heard the story, he said, aha, what the Torah said, it's talking about
This lady.
Marta bat Baitos. Ika de Amre, some say something else. What did she die from? Grogrot Rabbi Tzadok achla. She ate the dried figs of Rabbi Tzadok. V'itnesa umeta. She became nauseated and died. What does this mean? She ate the dried figs of Rabbi Tzadok. The Rabbi Tzadok yativ arba'in sheni b'ta'anita. There was a rabbi, his name is Rabbi Tzadok, and basically fasted for 40 years. Now, how do you fast for 40 years? Ate at night. But he fasted for 40 years, not Monday and Thursday and Monday and Thursday. 40 years. Why 40 years? That's how long the Shekhinah left Yerushalayim. Delo leharav Yerushalayim, so that Jerusalem should not be destroyed. He was so thin that whenever he ate anything, it could be seen from the outside going down, which means he was so thin that they could see when he would eat that it would go down. It's trying to illustrate for you the famine that was going on in Yerushalayim. He was fasting for 40 years. He was before the famine. And whenever he nourished himself, after he finished his fast, he couldn't eat solid food. What would he do? They would bring him dried figs and he would suck on them. And that's how he would get nourished. And this was the fig that Marta basically picked up and tried to eat and died from nausea. He would suck out their moisture and discard them. But a dried fig doesn't have much moisture. Okay. Now it's going to continue. Sorry?
But it has sugar, so it's
Yes, exactly. Ki hava kanicha nafsha, as Marta was dying, apikta dechol dahava v'kaspa, she took out all of her gold and silver, shedite b'shuka, she threw it up into the shuk, into the marketplace. Amra, hai lemai mi baile, what do I need this for? The Hainu Dichtiv, and this is what's written, Kaspam Bachutzot Yashlichu. This is a fulfillment of another prophecy from Yechezkel, that the money they will throw in the streets. Meaning what? What caused all of this to happen from the beginning?
Kesef.
That's right. And now we come back and we see what was the sacrifice that the Caesar sent? An egel. What is the egel supposed to remind the Jewish people of? From the parasha, what we said yesterday. What is dizahav? Don't call it dizahav, call it daizahav. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying it's God's fault that they made chet egel. Why? Because you gave them all this money. So we see too much money causes spiritual destruction. And that's exactly what we see. If we follow the money trail, we have the Gavra, we have Bar Kamsa, we have the Rabbanan. All these things was connected to the fact that they wanted money or political power. You tired? I can go on? You tell me. It's an honest question. You want to stretch?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, do a seventh inning stretch.
I don't understand though.
Please.
If she was walking without shoes, or whether she was, I mean, even if you're wearing shoes, it's not like you've never stepped in like.
No, she didn't. She stayed in her home.
She had people taken care of. She was the richest woman in Jerusalem.
So
She didn't go outside. She was tsanua. And she didn't have to go outside.
No, she's servant.
She had servants go get everything for her.
This is not nobody can streets from.
And if they took her outside, they probably took her out with a, have you seen it? Exactly, a pirion. Exactly, they took her out. She didn't walk on the ground with shoes or without shoes. Okay. Good?
Yeah.
All right. Now it's going to go back to telling the story of the destruction of Jerusalem again. Abba Sikraresh Bar Yoneh Yerushalayim Bar Achted Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Hava. There was a man, his name was Abba Sikra, and he was basically the head of the Bir Yonim. Remember the guys who burned the grain houses? He was the head. He was the head of these people. But he also happened to be the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's sister, which means he was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's nephew. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is one of the leading rabbis at the time of the destruction of the temple. Shalach le, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent the following message to him, because they're mishpucha, even though they're, shall we say, of different political parties. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is amongst the rabbinical political party that wants to make peace with the Romans, and Abba Sikra is the head of the party that wants to fight the Romans. But since they're mishpucha, they can talk. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sends him a message. Ta betzina legabe, come to me in secret. Because obviously it wouldn't be good for Abba Sikra, for the Bir Yonim, to see that he's talking to the other side. Ata, he came. Amarle, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, Ad emad avdituhu hache. How long are you guys going to behave in this way? V'katlitu le le'alma bekafna. And everybody's going to die of starvation in the meantime. Because of you. You burn this grain houses. Let's go and talk to the Romans. The Romans don't know the grain houses were burned. Amar le Rab Sikra. So what does Abba Sikra say to him? My avid. What am I going to do? If I do anything or say anything that is contrary to the agenda of the Bir Yonim, they will kill me. What do you see from here? He's the leader of the Bir Yonim. And even if he wants to do something that's against the political party to try to take him in a different way, they will kill him. Mafia, exactly, mafia. Mob mentality, that's what it is. Amarle, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, huh? Chazili takanta ledidi de'epuk. Find a way for me to get out of the city. Efshad dahaveh hatzala purta. And maybe I can find ourselves a small amount of salvation, which means I want to go talk to the Romans. You have to find me to get out of the city, which means the Romans would let people out of the city. The Biryonim weren't letting people out of the city, which means the Romans didn't want to kill anyone. They figured what would happen over the course of time. People would leave the city of Jerusalem as they were starving to death, and then they're fine. And then if they found one of them was a rebellious, they'd arrest them. But for the most part, what they were looking to do was to make sure there was no rebellion. Amar le Abba Sikra said to him, Nakot nafshach bekitzireh. Make yourself out to be sick. He's telling Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Velete kule ama lishalo bach. And basically let everybody come and ask about you. Tell people you're sick and start spreading everybody that you're very, very sick. Ve'iti miti sarya agni gabach. And then take something that smells bad, like the carcass of a dead animal, and lay it down next to you in your bed. So what's going to happen? Every time people come, they're going to smell, and they're going to think, the rabbi's finished. He's done. V'limru denach nafshach. And then people will say that you died because there's a smell. And what's the problem? There's no burial in Jerusalem. So anyone who dies has to be buried outside of Jerusalem.
Why is it in Jerusalem?
Because Jerusalem is the temple's there. If you walk over a Jewish body and it's buried in the ground, it calls us tum'ah. So there should be no tum'ah in Yerushalayim. The whole city, no one was buried in Jerusalem. Even now, they're not buried. They're buried outside Jerusalem. No one's buried in Jerusalem.
If someone dies in
Jerusalem?
Harazetim is outside Jerusalem. Okay, it's outside the temple. It's not in the old city. And the old city that we have today is not really the old city. The old city that we're talking about here, Jerusalem, was the Temple Mount and Silwan. That is Ir David. The old city we have today is not really what we're talking about. But there's no one buried in the old city either. There's no cemeteries in the old city.
Nobody buries in Yerushalayim itself. Nobody money to it, Adayom. If someone dies, right away they bury him.
No, but they take him out of the city.
Yes.
So what happens? He wants to get out of the city. So the Abba Sikra is giving him a way that he can get out of the city because they'll let the dead bodies go out of the city. Le'elayhu bach tamidach. Let your students take hold of your bed and carry it out. V'lo le'u bach inash achirina. But don't let anybody else carry you out. Why? V'lo lirgshan bach de kalilat. Because otherwise, other people might recognize you're not really dead. Because there's an idea that what? That someone who is alive weighs less than someone who's dead. Now that's not exactly medically people would dead, but when someone's alive, they can help you with the balance of the weight by shifting their weight, and that can be sensed when someone is carrying. And especially if they're carrying you and you move a little bit, they know you are alive. Avid hacha. This is what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did. Nichnas bo Rabbi Eliezer mitzad echad v'Rabbi Yoshua mitzad acher. So Rabbi Eliezer came on one side, and Rabbi Yeshua came on the other side, and they carried his bed to the city, which means they didn't bury him coffin; they were carrying his body. You know, they basically have a like a canvas with wood, and that's how they carried him out. When they came to the city, the Biryonim were not going to take this easily. What they wanted to do is they wanted to stick spears inside the body to make sure that the person's really dead. They're not stupid. Amar lehu, they said to him, Abba Sikra, which is the head of the Biryonim, said, Yomru Rabban Dakru, the Romans will say that you killed the rabbi. That's what's going on in there. It's going to be a Chilul Hashem, that the Romans are going to think that you stabbed the rabbi and that's why he's dead. Ba'ul lemidafeh, they wanted to shove him. They wanted to shove him, not to stab him, but to shove him so that he can move and see if he would cry out. Amar lahu yomru rabbanan dahafu. They're going to say that you pushed your rabbi. What kind of respect are you having for your rabbi? Patrule bavad nafak, and the Biryonim finally opened up the door, the gate, and let him go out. Ki mata lehatam, when Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai went to the Romans, Amar shlama alach malka, shlama alach malka. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai saw Vespasian. Vespasian was the Roman general at the time. He said, peace upon you, my king, peace upon you, king. Amar le, as Vespasian said to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, mi havat tere ketala. You deserve, according to Roman law, death penalty on two accounts. One, chada, delav milka ana. I am not a king. The ka karit li milka, you calling me a king. What does that mean? You're rebelling against Rome. Remember I told you how sensitive Rome was to rebellion? Even if you called a Roman general the king, that was considered to be rebellion. He's not the king in Rome. Because remember, who was the first one who brought Roman Empire to its glory? Julius Caesar. What happened to Julius Caesar? Oh, nobody knows?
Didn't he die?
He was assassinated by his friends. So the Romans were very, very sensitive to not just you calling a Jew a king, you calling someone who's a Roman a king when he's not the king. That was also treason. Chada, first, the lav malkana, I'm not a king and you call me a king. The two, and also, imalkana, if you think I'm a king, ad haidana amayla atiti legabe. Why didn't you come visit me until now? If you think I'm a king, what prevented you from coming out before? Amale Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai answered, Dika amrat lav malka'ana, to what you said that you are not a king. Ivra malka'at, the truth is you're going to be a king. The lav malka'at, because if you weren't a king, lo mimsera Yerushalayim biyadat, Jerusalem will not be given into your hand. Because the pasuk that says, Dichtiv, V'halevanon be'adir yipol. Lebanon. What is Lebanon? Not Lebanon. What is Lebanon? Har HaTova zeh ve'halevanon be'et HaMikdash. Which means the Lebanon, the Bet HaMikdash, can only fall in the hand of a dir. What is adir? A melech. Which means a person has to be of stature in order to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. Has to be a king. And even though Vespasian is not yet the Caesar, since it looks like he's going to be the one destroying the temple, then he has to be a king. Okay. Ve'en adir el melech, and a melech is not adir, is not a melech. Dichtiv ve'haya adiro mimenu, and the mighty one shall be with him. There's a pasuk to show that the word adir is a melech. Ve'en Levanon ela bet hamikdash, and what is Levanon? Is the bet hamikdash. Where do we learn this? Shene'ema hahar tov hazeh ve'alevanon in Parashat Bet Hanan. That the fine mountain, the Temple Mount, and Lebanon, the thing that makes everybody's heart, makes all the sins go red into white. Now, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that was the first question. Why you call me a king? Now, the second question is, why didn't you come yet? Why you waited so long? The ka'amrat, what you asked me, imal ka'ana, that if you said to me that I'm a king, amai lo ka'atit legabai adeidana, why didn't you come visit me until now? He gives him the answer, Bar Yoneh it ba lo shavkinan. There are Bar Yonim, there are Bir Yonim in the city, and they don't allow anybody to come out to greet you. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan ben Vespasian said to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, Ilu havit shel dvash udarkon karuch alea. If there was a keg of honey and a dangerous snake was pursuing it, lo hayu shovrim et hachavit bishvil darkon. Wouldn't you break the keg because of the snake? Basically means, if the Bir Yonim are not allowing you to come out and greet Rome, then why don't you break the walls of the city yourself, allow us to come in, and then we'll get rid of the Bir Yonim for you? Which means if you're not rebelling against us, we have nothing against you personally. Let us clean up your trouble with the Bir Yonim.
The Romans said?
Ishtik. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't have an answer for that. Because why? It's true. It's true. But the Bir Yonim are basically causing all the Jewish people to die. So they're rodef. So technically you'll be allowed to let the Romans to come in and take care of the Bir Yonim. So the Gemara is going to mention, Kare ale Rabbi Yosef ite Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosef, or some say Rabbi Akiva, basically said the following verse about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Meshiv chachamim achor b'datam yisakel. That when chachamim are in a difficult situation, it makes their thinking foolish, because he should have an answer. What should he have said? What should he have said to Vespasian? How could it be Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was quiet? Why didn't he have an answer? This is what he should have said. Basically, you take the tongs, you grab hold of the snake, and you kill it. And leave the keg intact, which means you don't have to break the walls of the city and let the Romans come in. You can take care of the Bir Yonim yourself. That's the answer he should have given to Vespasian. Okay. In the meantime, while this whole thing is going on, Adhachi ati pristika ale miroma. A Roman messenger came and basically said, Amar le, kum demit le kesa ve'amre hanhu chashive drome lotivach beresha. What happened? The Caesar died, and the senators in Rome want to appoint you to be Caesar. So what? To Vespasian. Now he sees that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai called him a melech before the messenger got there. So what does he see? He sees that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is able to see a little bit to the future. Hava sayem had misaveh. And Vespasian, it says here, was wearing only one of his shoes at the time. And he attempted to put the other shoe on, and he couldn't put the other shoe on. Why? Then he took the other shoe off, and he couldn't take it off. Amar, so he asked Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, what's going on? How come I can't put another shoe on? How come I can't take the old shoe off? Amar, my high, what is this? Amar, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai answered him, Lo titztaer, don't get nervous. Shmua tova at yalach. You heard good news. And whenever a person hears good news, what happens? It makes his body swell. That's what it says. Dichtiv. Shmua tova tidashen atzem. Good tidings fatten the bones. Which means he's asking Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai why he can't fit into a shoe. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is also giving him an answer for that. What's that? Ela my takante. What is the remedy? What's the remedy? Let someone who you don't like pass before you, and what will happen? Then you won't be so happy anymore, and then your shoe will return back to the way it was. Dichtiv beruach necheat teyabesh garem, which means that someone passes by you don't like, it makes you go down again. Avad hachi ayil. He did exactly that, and that's what happened. So we see Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is Chacham Gadol. Amar le Rabbi Vespasian said to Rabbi Yochanan, Umeachar dechakim tu kulehai, since I see you're so smart, ad ha'idana amai lo atitu legabe. You didn't come and tell me why you came.
He didn't?
No?
Yet. רק תשאל אותו.
Didn't say anything why he came. Amar le.
Didn't he say why you're not taking care of? Let me take care of the what's the name? I forgot the name. The group of Jewish people that get trouble.
No, Rabbi Yochanan, they didn't. Vespasian didn't ask Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai why he came. All he did is called him a king. And then he started to a conversation like that. He hasn't asked him why he came yet. Amar le velo amri lach. Didn't I say to you the question before? Amar le ana name amralach. I also answered you. Amar le mizal azilna ve'ina shachrina mishadran. Going back to Rome, and I will send another man to take my place. Ella be'eminach midi deten lach. So ask me now something that I can give you. Which means Rabbi Vespasian is going to leave, and he's going to become the Caesar. And I'll ask me for something, and I'll give you. Amar le, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, Ten li Yavne v'chachameha. Give me Yavne and their sages. Yavne was, of course, a place where the Chachamim were. V'shushilta de Rabban Gamliel. And save the family of Rabban Gamliel. Why save the family of Rabban Gamliel? Because Rabban Gamliel is descendant of David HaMelech. So don't hurt the family of Rabban Gamliel. So this way, we'll have descendants of David HaMelech to become Mashiach in the future. V'asvata misaryan le Rabbi Tzadok. And please send us a doctor to heal Rav Tzadok. So he asked for three things. Now the Gemara is going to say, well, why did he ask for these three things? Kare ale Rabbi Yosef itame Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosef, or some say Rabbi Akiva, basically said the following pasuk about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Meshiv chachamim achor v'tatam yizakel. He turns the chachamim backwards and he makes them foolish. Why? Ibayle memar hachi. He should have said to Vespasian, L'shivkinahu hadazimna. Leave them alone, which means don't destroy Jerusalem. He's asking for Yavne and Chachameh. What does that mean? He's leaving Jerusalem to be destroyed by Vespasian. Why didn't Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ask Vespasian to not destroy Jerusalem? So the Gemara is going to answer why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't ask to save Jerusalem. V'husava, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai held, Dilma kuli hai lo avi. That's too much to ask for. He's not going to follow that request. V'hatzala purta nami lo have. And therefore, that won't even be a small shout. I mean, I'll get the opportunity now to ask for something. If I ask for something huge, he's going to say no, and then I get nothing. So I better ask for something that's smaller that can potentially save the Jewish people.
Right? No.
He was right.
Right.
What's the message here? What was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai teaching? Jerusalem represents what?
Jerusalem.
The temple. Yes?
Okay.
What does Yavneh Chachameh represent?
Chachamim.
The Torah. Generally, the temple is the seat of where the Torah was. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. The Sanhedrin would sit in Lishkat HaGazit in the temple. So they were together, which means Jerusalem had two components to it. It had Mikdash, and it had the Torah. If you had to pick one, what would you pick? Vespasian is basically telling Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, pick one, temple or Torah. What is more important for the survival of the Jewish people? Everybody in this room can testify to that. Why? We haven't had a temple in 1,950 years. But Baruch Hashem was still here. Why are we still here? Because we have the Torah. And this... What?
So
The
smart.
Shekhinah goes with the Jewish people wherever they are. Now it's not. Even though the Shekhinah lo zaza mekotel ha'maravi, right? But the Shekhinah also went wherever the Jewish people are. If there's 10 people learning Torah, the Shekhinah is there. If one person's learning Torah, the Shekhinah is there. So the Torah is what may be the Shekhinah. What makes the temple place holy? That's the avodah. But the Torah is bigger. We can do avodah without Bet HaMikdash. We can't do Torah without the Chachamim. And so saving the Chachamim was saving the Shalshelet of the Torah, allowing it to continue on to the next generation and to where we are today. No kulam. No kulam. Many, but not kulam. We're still here, aren't we? Okay, but that was 10 rabbis, but there were many other rabbis. So what we learn from here is that Torah is more important than the temple. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't want to have the temple back. Of course we should want to have the temple, but the Torah is more important. And we can survive in the Galut without the temple, but we cannot survive without the Torah.
Did ever go back after his
He was the rabbi of the next generation. Yes, he was big.
They didn't bother him when he went back? But
Why were they going to bother? Oh no, did he go back into Yerushalayim? That's a good question. I don't know. Probably not. I would say he went to Yavne. Let's just finish this up. Asvateh de Besan Leil Rabbi Tzadok. The doctors who cured Rabbi Tzadok, Maihi. What treatment did they give him? Yoma Kama Ashkuya Mayad Defareh. They gave him water in which bran had been soaked. I don't know how this remedy works. Lemecha Mayad Sipuka. And the next day they gave him more. So basically what they did is little by little they gave him more and more food until he was able to eat regular food, and then his intestines widened to be able to support. This actually is what people, when people are starving, you don't give them a lot to eat right away because then they get sick. You have to give them a little bit at a time. Okay, should we stop here? Baruch Adonai, amen ve'amen.